All right, welcome everybody. Supervisor Alejo, I don't believe can make it today, so I'll be chairing today's meeting, the February 26th meeting of the Leadership Council. The first item on the agenda is welcome, introductions, and announcements. Katrina, do we have anything from your end?
No announcements. I want to jump right on into it. We have a lot going on today.
Yes. So item number one, we're finished, so we'll go to item number two, additions, modifications to the agenda. Do we have anything there? Hearing none, that would take us to item three, public comments for items not on the agenda. So again, these are if there's public comment for items that are not on the agenda. Do we have any public comment? Hearing none, that's a no, right, Katrina? And
yeah, I believe so. I was just a little shocked. That's all.
All right, so no public comment. All right, we're moving right along here to item number 4 is approval of minutes from the October 2024 meeting. Are there any discussion on that? Hearing none, can I please entertain a motion to approve the minutes?
This is Roxanne Wilson. I so move.
We have a first. We have a second.
This Enrique, second.
Great. We have a first and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. No. If there's any objections, please say no. Hearing none, motion approved. That would take us to item number 5, which is government. And the first item on there is new lead appointee. It's an informational item. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm just going to, for the sake of time, I'm going to kind of just update, get all the votes all kind of in one, if that's okay with you. Our governance committee met last week, and we have 4 openings in our appointed seats. One would be lead, 2 for Youth for Action, and 1 for Monterey County Mayors Association. We got approval from the governance committee to move forward with appointing Wes White to fill that lead seat. And we have a recommendation for replacing former Mayor Kimberly Craig with the Salinas Mayor Dennis Donahue. I also want to just let everybody know that we have the 3 elected seats open from these categories, and the governance committee would like to open these seats up to the community, so we'll be distributing an application for those to apply to get in for approval. So moving on to the actual votes that we're in here. Oh, I'm sorry. And also, yes, sorry, there's a bunch of them. We also met with the governance committee, and they had approved moving the cards committee roster forward to the leadership council, in addition to approving CHSP representatives as voting members of our COC committees. Right now, we do not have that, and the governance committee moved them forward. So we have 4 votes here that we would like to put out to the leadership council. Yeah, so this is the governance committee update. So we met with the governance committee last week, and these are the action items that were approved by the governance committee to move forward to the leadership council for final approval. So the lead has appointed Wes White to fill that vacant seat, and the governance committee accepted all of these requests, proposals, recommendations to move forward to the leadership council.
Okay.
So I guess I would just fill these open seats with Wes White and Mayor Dennis Donahue, and then approve the cards committee roster and approve CHSP being a voting member of COC committees.
Great. So does first off, are there any questions or comments on these recommendations? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to either approve each one by one, or to approve all 4 as a lump sum, or all in one, basically.
I move to approve all 4 simultaneously.
Great. We have a motion on the table. Thank you. Is there a second to approve all 4?
Phyllis Katz, second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any
Aye.
objections?
Aye.
Hearing none. Items approved.
Can I make a suggestion? Colin, this is Dan Baldwin at the community.
Yes,
Center.
go ahead.
And
Yes.
that is, can you have the motion include the names? Not because Katrina said the names, but the motion didn't say the names. And it's always good for the record to have the motion say the names.
I approve that, or I support that. Roxanne, would you like to state the names as recommended?
Yes. I would like to make a motion to approve Wes White as the new lead appointee to the Leadership Council. I do not have the CARS committee roster in front of me, but whoever is on that list, I would like to move for them to be approved as well. And also for the coalition to be a voting member on all of the committees. Thank you. And also for Mayor Dennis Donahue to replace former Mayor Kimberly Craig.
Thank you very much. And please note that in the record. I guess we can do another vote just to make it formal. So we have a first. Can we restate the second, please, on that? Whoever seconded that, could you please just repeat that? I'll just go ahead and second it just to move things along. All those in favor again, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any objections? Here's some background noise, but I don't believe that's an objection. So motion is approved. So that would take us to the governance committee update. Wait, no, that's what we were just on. Sorry.
Sorry, yeah, it might be backwards, and that's my apologies. My thing's a little shuffled. Sorry about that. It's a governance charter update.
Sorry. So that would take us to the governance charter update. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so while we were in our governance committee, we have also been reviewing the governance charter and really trying to align the governance charter with our Lead Me Home plan and what is currently in process. So some key points before we go ahead and send out the full document to you all with the revisions is that we'll be removing the membership component from our charter. As it is stated now, the Leadership Council will be made of 26 council members to include a membership of up to some crazy number of folks. So already getting a quorum for 26 is really hard, and the requirement of the membership, in addition to the council, is kind of unfeasible with our meetings being public meetings, which are highly attended and are encouraged for people to participate. So that was approved to be removed from the governance charter, along with matching the language of our advisory boards, looking at the CHSP advisory board, Youth for Action, and LEAD. They were all very different, and we wanted to just have the language be in alignment with each other, as all 3 of these boards are advising boards to the Leadership Council. So we have also removed the requirement of an annual meeting. Our Leadership Council is only required to meet once a year by the federal government, and we meet an upwards of 6+ times a year, and we far exceed that requirement. Adding in the additional event is unsustainable. So we have opted to remove that as well. We are also looking at our committee structure and how many committees there are. So we've decided as a governance committee to combine the governance committee with the planning committee and the service coordination committee with the monitoring and evaluation. This will help streamline the amount of meetings and the amount of groups meeting. As you all know, there's only a handful of folks that volunteer, and it's the same folks in every group. So really trying to limit the amount of meetings. And we were seeing crossover in the descriptions of those committees, so it was only right. Also including that CHSP has a voting seat on these committees, and then just updating, clarifying language throughout the document. CHSP will be providing the full updated document for your review and approval at our next meeting. So that is just an update.
Is there any discussion or comments on Katrina's update? Hearing none, that would take us to 5D, which would be monitoring and evaluation committee update and vote.
Yes, so I have a couple of our monitoring and evaluation committee folk on here. I do want to just quickly let you guys know a little bit what is happening, and then I'll open it up to our chairs to have a full overview. But we entered into contract with Elaine DeColony and Kate Bristol last year, and we are in development of a monitoring program for the county and the Continuum of Care, which is going to align our monitoring focus with the goals of the Leave Me Home Plan, ensure compliance with the state, and really are just making sure that we're having a robust monitoring program for our subrecipients. We are aligning CHSP's Monterey County and City of Salinas contract language, so that our requirements, our reporting, our program monitoring is all even across the board. We're talking about the same thing, we're speaking the same language, so that our subrecipients are not confused or have to report differently to the different entities. So in addition to that, we are also developing a county-wide grievance policy, and are administering a homeless survey to the community to extract data to start the development of our program monitoring. Roxanne or Tim, do you guys have any other input?
Roxanne or Tim, do you have any further thoughts?
Yeah, I think one of the most important factors for me is when we were in the process of closing Work Street and moving people in, I had come across quite a few organizations where it was questionable on whether or not Housing First, according to California state law, was being properly implemented. So we as a group are working on developing not just the policies, but the infrastructure so that organizations have the tools that they need in order to do this. I think that, and I own a lot of that because I came from the COC. I don't think that we set it up correctly under the new law. So you can expect for us to start coming out with more and more tools to help organizations over the next several months.
Thank you, Roxanne. Yeah, and just to echo Roxanne's statement and just add a little bit more, on the state level, I've been going to a lot of these meetings with state officials, and there's just a lot of talk around accountability right now. And so we're trying to make sure that we have all the accountability measures in place to be at the top of the list when it comes to funding. And also, we want our services to be the best. We want the people to be the best served. And so we want to be able to help evaluate programs and help them to be the most efficient that they could be, and the outcomes and people to be served the best that they could be.
Thank you, Roxanne and Tim. Really appreciate that. Anything further, Katrina?
That's it.
And then do we have to take action on this item then?
No, I moved it all from the governance. So that's a lot of the bureaucracy kind of in it. It's like the governance. Go ahead, Roxanne, sorry.
Chair, I have one more thing to add.
Go ahead.
There is also, we are putting together a report. We're developing the structure for a systems performance report that will be released annually to the entire network, so they can see the work that we're doing and how it directly ties into increasing system performance. So I would imagine that report would probably be finalized in the next 4 months or so. We just started the draft last week. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. That would take us to item 6, which would be 6A, which would be HUD COC NOFO Awards informational item.
Yes, thank you so much. So I sent out an email to you all, but I want to make sure that we really look at this together. How to announce our 2024 Continuum of Care Award, and we have been awarded a lot amount of money. So we went into this with an annual renewal demand of $6.2 million. And with the opportunity to go for additional funding of 1.2, so for a total of 7.5 in potential available funding for homeless resources in our community. This year's award is about 1.5, a little shy under 1.5, and is a 1.2 increase in funding of last 2023 and $919,000 more than our original ask. So I just want to take this moment to congratulate everybody for their hard work, our rate and review panel that participated in coming up with these recommendations. I want to also note that all our Tier 1 and Tier 2 projects were fully funded, even in excess, and 1 of 3 of our bonus projects were approved for funding. So that bonus project is always, a shot that we're just gonna take our shot, and we were able to get 1 of the 3, so that was awarded to Dorothy's Place, and we're really excited for that program to get up and running. We are a little, in a place where we're not sure when the funding will be released. They're always about a year or 2 behind, so really trying to ensure that these projects are able to continue and get developed in the waiting period. So with our current administration, we'll see how things go. We always stay hopeful, for sure. So I just want to congratulate everybody for their hard work. And I see that Phyllis has her hand up.
Okay, please go ahead.
I think that's great that we got this. I'm a little concerned, as probably some others might be on this call, that HUD is cutting back its staff and losing staff at high rates, and that's anticipated to continue over the next while. And I'm hopeful that we can really count on this money. I'm wondering if there's anything we can do to support the agencies that are going to be even more counting on this money to carry out their contracts.
Yeah, so we're definitely looking into this, and have been meeting with foundations to try to come up with strategically plan if something goes wrong and doesn't go in our favor, what we can do to support, working with our counties, and just making sure that every funding opportunity that comes out, that the county, the cities, the coalition is going to apply for, so that we can try to keep funding flowing to these programs.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other thoughts, comments, questions?
NAEH, they are encouraging people today to reach out to your congressional leaders, release the 2024 awards. So I know that impacts many of our organizations locally, and we should do anything we can to protect our organizations.
Appreciate that. Anyone else? Hearing none. Thank you very much for that. That was informational. And then there's a second part to this. I guess that would take us to 6.B, the HHAP updates.
All right, I can pass this over to Nicole.
Hi everyone. So I will try to get through these fairly quickly. We do have a few votes for you at the Leadership Council today, and we're going to take each vote one by one so that it doesn't get too confusing and things trying to do a vote all the way at the end. So our first Leadership Council vote will be concerning HHAP Round 1. That expenditure deadline is quickly approaching. That's June 30th, 2025 of this year. We are currently 97% expended with approximately $90,000 remaining. There is one agency that has unspent funds, and so CHSP is suggesting that proposing that we reallocate $10,000 of those dollars to San Benito County, who has expressed a great need for rental assistance and have families that they would like to serve but had run out of rental assistance funding. So we would like to propose $10,000 moving to San Benito County. And then we do have a plan for the agency that is underspending. So if they do not meet 50% of their remaining $79,000 by April 10th, then we will be recapturing all of the remaining funds and providing those to King City because they have a deficit within their home key program. So they said they could spend that yesterday. And so if that agency does not meet that deadline, we will be recapturing those and providing them to King City. So the first vote that we would like for you all to approve is reducing the overall award to the organization by $10,852. Reallocating that amount to San Benito County for rental assistance, and then approving CHSP to reallocate remaining funds to King City if that organization does not meet the expenditure requirement by April 10th.
Our office always sees a huge need for the type of services that Cecil provides for helping people navigate finding housing, helping people move. They provide a broad range of services. Is there any way that some technical assistance could be offered by anyone on the call or anyone to help them be successful?
Yeah, we've been working with them on a monthly basis. This funding was over a 5-year period. And if we do not expend these funds by June 30th, we cannot apply for HAP. So we are working with them very closely, and they're well aware of where they're at and what they can and can't do. So we're not pulling this without notice.
Okay, well, thank you. I just want to express the huge need we see for that type of service.
Thank you. And I have Roxanne with your hand up.
When you said $80,000, or I'm sorry, my internet is a little unstable here in the hotel. But when you said reallocating, you said from that organization. Nicole, are you talking about from San Benito?
From Cecil.
So I'm sorry.
And then reducing their award by $10,000 and reallocating that $10,000 to San Benito County, who we would just be increasing their contract because they did have a contract with us for rental assistance that they spent down a little while ago. And then if Cecil does not meet the expenditure of 50% by April 10th, we would recapture the remaining and give that to King City.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for clarifying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if we could, is there any public comment? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the first recommendation?
I'll motion to approve.
We have a first. Do we have a second?
Second, Phyllis Counts.
Great, thank you very much. We have a first and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
This is Rick San Benito. I think I probably want to abstain.
I should thank you for that, Enrique. I guess I should probably abstain as well. Do we have a quorum issue if we abstain? Okay, I'll pull back mine and I'll be abstaining as well with San Benito County being involved. Thank you for that. We still have an approval, so that would, if we could move on to the second item then, please.
Yes, and then just really quickly for our HAP 2, just so that I am giving you this one just informational, our HAP 2 is on its way. So the San Benito County project was recently approved by the state to move to permanent supportive housing. So we will be working with San Benito County as they continue their drawdowns, but we are on track for that round. And then next slide, please. The next vote does concern HAP round 3. For that round, there is an expenditure deadline of June 30, 2026. We are about 45% expended, and the vote that we are bringing to the Leadership Council today concerns the King City Home Key program. So in order to help the spend down and also to help with the renovations and things that still need to happen there, we will be we worked with King City, Step Up, and the Housing Authority for the County of Monterey to come up with this recommendation for the Leadership Council. So what we are asking is to reduce Step Up's total allocation from $1 million to $207,663, reallocating $327,000 to the City of King, and then reallocating $465,000 of that to the Housing Authority.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? Do we have any public comment? Hearing none, can I please entertain a motion to approve the second item there?
Jill Allen, I'll make a motion to approve this item. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joe. We have a first. We have a second.
Oglesby, second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Did
Any
Supervisor
opposed?
ask you have a?
Yeah, I was just going to say, and through the chair, just a question. It's
Yes,
fine.
sorry,
Now
go ahead,
after the vote. But what is the remaining outstanding balance required to complete the King City project with this additional funding provided?
I don't have the spreadsheet in front of me, but I can tell you, Supervisor Askew, that it's a combination of issues that has led to the King City project requiring more funds, mostly having to do with bureaucracy with the city, a county, and a state. And then there being a middle of a lawsuit, which has extended our timeline, therefore requiring more money considering the tariffs and how that's affecting construction, and also the issue of prolonging people staying inside of the Monarch Inn. I do recognize that the King City project is taking quite a bit of funding, but we can spend it fast to help us meet our expenditure deadlines.
Okay. Are we like millions in the gap range, or
no? I think
in on.
So the reallocation from Step Up to King City, that's for acquisition, and originally Step Up was going to push money, but we found that to be a little odd to have a nonprofit paying a government entity $1,000. So it's just switching the money is going to. Step Up is aware, they're the ones who volunteered that money go back into the pot and rerouted correctly.
Okay.
There follow-up. But the Housing Authority has expressed commitment to moving as quickly as they can through the development process once they close on escrow.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. We will move on then to the next item, please, on this item.
Yes, so the next item is an update on HAP 4. So that has an expenditure deadline of June 30th, 2027. But there is, this was the first round where they added like a 50% expenditure requirement. So that requirement is coming up in May 31st of 2025. We are about $282,000 short, but we are working with all of our agencies to still... my apologies, HAP 4 is like the little baby corner right here, the left bottom corner. So we are working with our agencies to make sure that they can meet that spend down requirement, because it is also one of the requirements for HAP 6, which I'll go over again a little bit later. But right now there is no need for any Leadership Council action, and that is just an informational update.
Okay, thank you for that information. Are there any questions or comments on that part? Hearing none. Any public comment? Hearing none, and we will move on to the next portion.
Okay, so our next portion is HAP 5. The coalition is very excited to announce that we are hoping to launch our RFP upon approval from the Leadership Council. We did do our letter of intent process, which was opened on February 7th and closed the 17th. We received 27 LOIs for multiple projects within each of those LOIs, so it could be possibly even more projects than just 27. We do have a 50% expenditure deadline of that by June 30th, 2026. So we did, in the last office hours with HCD, request if that would be possible, but it is a statutory deadline. But HCD understands that it took a little while to get their awards out. So they will be working with communities if that expenditure deadline becomes a problem. We do have our mandatory bidders conference for those that submitted an LOI on March 5th, and then we've got our proposed timeline here. Our overall award is $3.1 million, and we are hoping to be able to bring that out into the community quickly. So as you can see from our timeline, we're hoping to have projects notified by April 25th so that we can have folks in contract by the end of May, if maybe early June. Next slide, please. So our HAP 5 eligible uses, when we submitted our application to the state, we were required to submit a funding plan, and part of that funding plan, we had to already place our money into some buckets. So we had rapid rehousing, prevention and shelter diversion, the delivery of permanent housing, interim sheltering, and street outreach. And then with every round of HHAP, there is a youth set-aside requirement. This was 10% for this round. And we will be looking now at the LOIs in the next slide to see what the asks were. So in our letters of intent, we were oversubscribed by something, $4.2 million, which is not unusual for our HHAP funding due to its flexibility. But unfortunately, we aren't LA and we don't get that large pot of funding. So right now we have $2 million in rapid rehousing, $1 million in prevention and shelter diversion, 1.5 in the delivery of permanent housing. Interim sheltering was about 1 million, and street outreach at about 1 million, and our youth set aside at 250. Next slide, please.
I do want to say on this slide is because folks submitted LOIs with multiple projects in here, this is just an estimate of what the amount of the ask is really for each bucket. So it might be more or less because some LOIs did not break down each amount for each category. So just wanted to put that one out there. Sorry.
So one of the things we will be bringing to you all for a HAP 5 vote in the next couple of slides, but just wanted to call attention to it here. We did have a request for a carve out from the City of King to help with the interim shelter while Home Key is still under construction. So the City of King did request $250,000 of that interim shelter allocation. Our current budget is under that, so what we will be requesting and proposing to the Leadership Council is reallocating approximately $22,000 from the prevention bucket into the interim shelter bucket to fill that request. And next slide, please. And then if that is approved, this would be the adjusted eligible use buckets for each of those. The interim sheltering would meet the minimum requirement that was requested from the City of King, and then we would just reduce our prevention and shelter diversion. This was a suggestion from the coalition just because for this next round of HHAP, round 6, the street outreach is not a priority, and you have to do a lot to prove that you may need it, so we didn't want to take from there. Our rapid rehousing programs are usually the ones that have the biggest ask. As you saw in the LOIs, that was about $2 million, which was the largest ask, so we didn't want to take from there. And delivery of permanent housing is a huge need, so we didn't want to take from there. So that left prevention and shelter diversion. Next slide, please. So wrapped up, hopefully for y'all, is the vote for HAP 5 would be to approve first the King City carve out of $250,000, and upon that approval, approving the reallocation of $22,000 from prevention to interim shelter, and the coalition would take that budget modification to the state. And then the very final approval that we would like for round 5 is the approval of the RFP, and that would be with changes to the allocations if they are approved.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions or comments from the council? Roxanne?
So last year, I think it was last year, there was such a large oversubscription, and I was wondering if there is a threshold. Just wondering if we have a point threshold on the RFP to try to weave, out easily. 27 is a lot of applications for any of your volunteers to get through.
Yes. Nicole, did we add the point threshold in there? I know we talked about it.
We did not add the point thresholds, but we will if anybody would like to make a suggestion for what that should be. I believe the total points possible were 150.
140, I think. 140.
Yes, so that is the total points possible out of the scoring for this round of the RFP. If there is a threshold that people would like to suggest.
I would say 75%, 80% personally, but that's just me.
What has been selected in previous rounds in terms of a threshold?
Go ahead, Joe.
Oh, is Sabrina on? Do you remember what the threshold?
I think we
attempted
to install a threshold before, but it was kind of disregarded because it wasn't in the RFP. That's why I just want to make sure that it's in the RFP. Like, we're going to add that change this time.
Anything further, Jill?
I was kind of wondering, with the reallocation of the funds from interim shelter to the King City situation, what actually is the King City situation at this time? And pardon me for not being totally informed on this, but I think interim sheltering, and I realize it's $23,000, but interim sheltering is also very important. And I was kind of wondering what the plans were in King City, because and King City probably thinks this too, it's kind of looking like a bottomless pit there financially. And so I was just wanting to be brought up to speed on what's actually happening in King City to housing.
I know the mayor is on, but Mayor, if you would like me to talk about it.
I'll do just a quick brief. You can give all the specifics. Great question, and I do understand how it looks. So we all know what happened with the home key projects in Shangri-La and what they did with the money. Right. King City has been the only city that came up with a plan, and we are on the cusp of all of that being finished out. Someone mentioned the bureaucracy. We're in that mode right now, and these allocations for the dollars is for the people that we had put into temporary housing at the hotel as Project Home Key was supposed to be built. We've been able to keep them in, and we're now trying to get to that point that would keep them in there till the end of construction. So I do understand, but I gotta say, great thanks for everyone just helping us get through this. And then Roxanne, please finish.
So there's a few things. There's a 47-mile stretch of no services. So as you guys all know, I've been working really hard with the South County cities to address that gigantic service gap. King City and Soledad have stepped up, and we are working diligently to try to assist them in resolving their homeless issues to the best of our ability. As Mayor Labar had mentioned, these, if you may remember, that a lot of, sorry, am I breaking up again?
Breaking up a little, yeah, a little bit.
I'll try to keep this quick. These folks were all from unsheltered status before being in the Monarch Inn. So if the Monarch Inn ends up closing, and we will have a reestablishment of a very large encampment.
Thank you, Roxanne. Supervisor Eskew?
Thank you. Just a question, and I don't know if this is, I'm new in this space as an alternate to Supervisor Alejo, but we talked about the Homeless Management Information System, and I'm just wondering, is there any way to prioritize or to engage in direct connection between the folks that are in the HMIS, having direct connection into the applications that are for subsidized housing that's becoming available either through the Housing Authority voucher system or through project-based vouchers that are becoming available? And I guess I just asked that question, I've asked it before in different settings, but as I'm looking at these pots of money again, it just becomes very apparent to me that there's this gap that exists between who we have identified as needing housing, all of the pots of money that we have that we're working to try to connect those folks up with housing, and the housing that is in fact available through the affordable housing systems that exist. Is there any connecting opportunities that exist, or is there any way that we're valuing those connections through the RFP that will determine how we put these dollars out?
I think I understand your question, Supervisor. We are currently right now working with the Housing Authority to see if there are folks on our master list that also have vouchers. As you know, the 545 Work Street project, that investor would like to be a landlord out here, and we are working with the Housing Authority because they did want to require some sort of vouchers. So we are trying right now to start working with them and building what it would look like for them to cross-reference our master list, which is cars, and what they've got for vouchers and folks who are experiencing homelessness and meet the chronicity requirements and things like that. So we have begun that conversation. As far as a requirement that they have to use coordinated entry to fill or to provide vouchers or anything like that, they don't have a requirement to use coordinated entry. But so I'm not. So I hope I answered your question, or I'm not. If I haven't, then my apologies.
Yeah, no, I guess I'm asking the question. I think in the context of where we've got limited dollars available for this next process, and we and yet we're prioritizing how through the HHAP 5 requests, the RFP. We're talking about the. Is there any way to prioritize funding going out the door that would help make those connections, that would prioritize those connections? And I guess even to the point of we've got the folks that are in the King City hotel that we're funding their per night. We're funding them to keep them sheltered while we wait for another property to be built that we're hoping to move them into. But in the meantime, are we also looking at how we can identify voucher housing for them or subsidized affordable housing for those folks? I mean, I feel like we're working, some of this is there's a parallel path here and there's a parallel path here and there's a parallel path here, but we're forgetting about the intersections between those parallel paths. And that could just be me showing up to one meeting and not being present for all of the parallel path conversation, the intersections. But I'm feeling like there's some parallel paths that aren't intersecting, and what I'm hearing and seeing right here in this question.
If I can respond, is rapid rehousers are notified every time a waiting list is open. So CHISPA, MidPen, all of them notify the coalition, and then the coalition disperses it to the entire network. Rapid rehousers pay for deposits, and they also pay for any type of moving expenses, and they may even oftentimes pay for arrears so that people can get their electricity turned back on. So there is a little bit of cross-system work that's happening in that space, but we are building up our relationship with the Housing Authority more and more, as mentioned, so that we can cross-reference our coordinated entry master list with their list, and then also CCAA building up more relationships and partnerships between the homeless sector and the managed care plan.
Thank you. Timothy Heaven, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I really want to just take a moment to recognize, I applaud King City and the city for their work and keeping folks housed there. I think, they're a model of what we should all be doing in our own jurisdictions, and the commitment that I've seen from them to keep the folks housed is incredible. Really not letting anyone really return back to home out there where they were at in the encampment is really it's really great. And so I'm not sure where these funds. I'm still a little confused as to where we're pulling these funds from, but I think King City is deserving of it.
Thank you very much. And I kind of got lost in all that. I think we voted on this item already. If I'm not mistaken, we had several.
I didn't. I don't
didn't do this one yet.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to any public comment. Okay, any public comment first on this one? And hearing none, can I please entertain a motion to approve the recommendation for HHAP round 5?
I would make a motion if they install a threshold requirement.
That's where we left off. You recommended a threshold requirement of 75 or 85%. So do we want 80. Or 80?
So let's decide on what the percent is, and I'll make a motion to approve with the threshold requirement of whatever percent.
Would you like to pick a number, Roxanne?
80.
I think we should go with 75 for this year and see how that pans out. If we're just moving towards system performance, I feel like that should be our bare bottom. I'm sorry, Tim, that looked like it stressed you out.
Do we have a second on that? Jill?
I'll second that, Askew.
Supervisor Askew, we have a first and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you very much for that. That would take us to 6C, which is HCD ESG update with Kayshla.
We take one moment. I'm sorry. HAP 6 just dropped. If we can just really quick.
Yes, sorry about that, Supervisor. We did have HAP 6 drop. We did get to go through the RFP or their NOFA, the state's NOFA, somewhat a little bit already. So our applications are going to be due August 29th, 2025. The COC was awarded a total of $3.7 million. The county, I believe, at 2.7, and San Benito County at $700 and something thousand. There is another requirement for 50% of the HAP base allocation being expended by June 30th, 2027, as well as a requirement to obligate 75% of those funds by that same date. And there is a 100% expenditure requirement by June 30th, 2029. Really important to draw to, and this was part of the governor's accountability piece that he talked about in his press conference, is that in order to receive your HAP 6 disbursement at all, there are certain obligation and expenditure requirements that must be met. So an administrative entity must have expended 100% of their or must have 100% of their rounds 1 through 3 obligated, which we do. So we check that box there. We must also expend 100% of our round 1 allocations or return it to the state by June 30th. The administrative entity must expend 50% of that initial disbursement and the obligation requirement of 75% for round 4. And we must be in good standing on all rounds of HAP fiscal and HMIS reporting. So without meeting those thresholds, you cannot receive your HAP 6 disbursement. And that is just informational.
Information only. Thank you for that. So we would then move on to HCD ESG update with Kayshla.
So as many of you guys know, the City of Salinas is the administrative entity for state ESG funding. We have an allocation of $233,000 that needs to be expended by August 18, 2025. So it's quickly approaching. We recently received a termination letter from our subrecipient, Cecil, who is forfeiting their $95,000 250 allocation. And so the city went ahead and released a letter of intent to the Continuum of Care and received a total of 4 requests of funding. The city and the deputy director ranked the 4 applicants, and we had notified one of the agencies a letter of intent to award them pending Leadership Council approval. So I'm coming to you today requesting approval to reallocate the $95,000 from Cecil to Downtown Streets Team Rapid Rehousing Program. Their contract would be starting February 1st to June 30th, 2025. And based off of their history with state ESG funding from the 2022 funding, we do believe that they are in a good position to expend the full amount by June 30th.
Thank you very much.
Anyone have any questions?
Any questions or comments?
Yeah. What exactly would these rapid housing programs be? Is it like rental assistance? Is it and also is there any way to like allocate some of these funds for like storage assistance, storage units?
Thanks, Tim. That's a great question. So under the eligible use of rapid rehousing, that is application fees, deposit assistance, short-term and medium-term rental assistance. Unfortunately, storage is not one of those eligible expenses. There is also moving costs, so if somebody needs assistance moving into housing, that would be an eligible expense.
Phyllis?
I'm trying to read it. I'm sorry, it's kind of small on my screen. But we're looking, so this is transferring from Cecil to Cecil? Just to different programs?
So this is a transfer. So this was what was approved the last Leadership Council meeting back in, I think, April 2024. So it is going to Central Coast Center for Independent Living to Downtown Streets team. So it's a different entity.
I see. Apologies for missing that. So would this be also, could this house some people maybe in hotels, or it's not really enough to do that? Or is it not enough to do that to help people who are on the street?
That's a great question, Phyllis. So under emergency shelter, that would be an eligible use of funding. However, what we are requesting is rapid rehousing funding to be moved. So it's only specific to the rental assistance provided. I guess the piece that I forgot to add was that 40% of the overall allocation needs to go towards rapid rehousing. So if you guys take a look at this graph right here, this is the only rapid rehousing project. And so therefore, in order for us to really meet the eligible uses of this funding, we need to keep it within the rapid rehousing component.
So I guess my other concern is, now this is the second time that Cecil has come up as far as our taking funding from them. It was 10,000 earlier, and now it's 95, and reallocating it. And I appreciate the explanation that I seem to always forget between meetings, that unless things are spent down at a certain point, to a certain extent, then it reflects badly on future applications. But again, I'm wondering what assistance Cecil might need in order to remain a dynamic entity in our community and who can help them out. Thank you.
Do you have something further, Tim?
Yeah, I just want to make a note. I do believe that storage fees can be considered moving expenses under ERF, rental assistance and rep rehousing. I just want to make a note of that. And I also, I'm curious, have we thought about when is the Steinbeck Lodge supposed to, I think that's supposed to be coming to an end pretty soon. And so I don't know if I think there's a lot of people there still. I don't know if these funds might be able to help them out there, folks. It's a consideration, I guess.
Thanks, Tim. So the Emergency Motel Program has their own pot of funding for rapid rehousing funding. So they're not currently in financial assistance need.
Anything further? Hearing none, do we have public comment? Seeing none, can I please entertain a motion for the recommended reallocation?
Jill Allen, so moved.
Phyllis Cap, second. Oh, sorry.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none. Thank you very much. Items approved. That would take us to 7, planning the 2025 Summit on Homelessness update. This is informational. Please go ahead.
So really excited to announce that County of Monterey County Office of Education, and the Coalition have been trucking along, and our registration is now closed. We have hit our 350 attendee cap. We have secured 30 presenters or panelists across 15 sessions, and it will be taking place on April 17th at the Steinbeck Center. So if you didn't get in, your registration's in, I'm sorry that happened. Please send us your email and we'll just start creating a wait list. We'll start going through our registration folks and ensure if they're going to be able to make it or not. But big thanks to Donna and Roxanne and Alex and the whole team who has been really working hard on this. We're excited about it. So that's that.
Brenda, did you want to mention the need for more money, though?
That is a thing. We do need additional funding. We put 7 feelers out over the past week, so I don't know if we still continue to ask, but we haven't got any bites yet. So we are currently at about a $15,000 deficit, and could use some funding to support. So if there's any sponsors available to help with this activity, that would be great. My only concern, though, Roxanne, is that with the sponsorship packets, we've already exceeded. If we continue with that sponsorship packet and they get tables, then what do we do with the overflow of people?
Did you say 15 or 50? Because the AV is pretty expensive.
I know. I'm hoping he's going to come back and say it's really just...
I'll give you a 85% discount.
Yeah. Okay. So Roxanne is way more in tune with this. I'm more optimistic that we're going to get a great deal. So basically our biggest funding block is audio visual. So we had a couple folks that we had in mind for this project, and have fallen out. They quoted us about $9,000. Like, we can do that. That's in the budget. It's done. And they fell out. So now we're meeting with new vendors, and they're capping. They're quoting us like a ridiculous amount of money. I can't even say out loud. Roxanne, if you want to say it.
$50,000 historically. And each one of those rooms requires cameras and staff and mics and stages. It's a lot. And, you know, as we had talked about before, we had recommended that we start charging for the summit. And I believe it was this body who said we're not going to do that. So we don't have enough people donating. The alternative is that we don't stream it, we don't record it, and it's just not a public meeting like it has. I did look back on the county's website. Some of the summits, because we've had a couple now, some of them has had like several hundred people rewatch them. So there's benefit of us recording all of the rooms.
Jill, do you have your hand raised?
I'd like to suggest that there might be enough influence in this meeting to go speak with CSUMB, since we are placing a very public, very well announced, very effective event in their venue, and see if CSUMB can help us out with it. And the stage work at home. It would seem to be a fair trade.
I don't know, Jill. They just sent me an updated invoice. So,
yeah, they sent it to you.
Yeah.
But maybe somebody like a county supervisor or a city mayor or somebody could speak to the upper echelon at CSUMB and say, this is a great public event that anybody could be proud to sponsor. Can you give us a little bit of training? Otherwise, we won't be able to record it, and that really diminishes the effect.
Thank you. We have Supervisor Askew with her hand raised.
I was going to say, what's the total gap that we have in order to, I think there's a lot of value in having it recorded. I mean, it's a lot of work to put everything on and to be able to capture the information. I know I send people to the recordings, and I send these recordings and I reference the recordings from these workshops year round. I'm still sending people back to the recordings from the very first summit that was held back when it was all done on Zoom. There was just such great information that was put out in these spaces. So can you just, so I would love to be able to figure out how we can get it recorded. What is the total amount of money that we're short in order to have a recording provided?
About 50,000.
50,000? 50. Okay, 50,000. And that's a cost that would be charged by CSUMB for the recording?
It's the outside. We're contracting or trying to get in contract with Media One.
Media One.
Mag One. Yeah.
Mag One. Thank you, William. Mag One. They were highly recommended from a couple different people. This would be our third vendor we've spoken to. And I'm working on getting a quote from him now.
And
but his verbal quote was crazy, like 80-something thousand.
And it's because there's multiple rooms with multiple speakers, so there would have to be multiple recordings happening?
Simultaneously, yes. There's 4 sessions happening simultaneously throughout the day.
Okay, and if we were to not have it all simultaneously streamed, but just to have the recordings occur, it could end up costing less than that?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so I would say...
the streaming he said the streaming is the least of his expenses. The streaming is the easy part. It's the equipment and staffing for, yeah.
Okay. Well, I think if there's any opportunity to continue soliciting for sponsorships to be able to have it recorded, at least I would encourage us to at least identify the key workshops that would be most valuable and figure out how to find a way to get those recorded. And I'm happy to have a sidebar conversation with some additional ideas. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have Donna Smith.
Yeah, just to put some perspective on it, to let people know the facility rental is almost $9,000, and that's with a $2,000 discount, and then the food is almost $6,000, and that's at a discounted rate, and then the rental of additional equipment is about $1,000 for additional chairs and tables, and that's just for food and the rental of the place and places to sit. So that kind of gives you an idea of how much we're spending so far, and then the AV is on top of that. So I just want to put that information out there so people are aware of what the cost is to put this on so far.
Yeah, and we've had people not be able to come to the event because we couldn't pay for travel stipends, but I'm still very excited of the presenters and sessions we do have to offer.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Mike Labar.
Thank you. Just a thought, but don't one of our local community colleges have an AV program, specifically classes in filming? Because you might not get the same quality, but maybe the way we work it is they would get real world experience and we would get the AV component portion of it. Because those classes usually have enough equipment for the recording, for the audio, and the streaming portion really isn't that technical other than a few components. Since it's so much money. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you. Enrique Ariola.
Thank you. I also wanted to say $60,000 seems like a lot of money. I'm not in this business, so it's not 100% if it's really a lot of money for the service, but it does feel like it's a lot of money, and I like the idea of looking at alternatives, and it's a great suggestion to work with the community colleges or the Monterey Bay, the CSMB. So, I mean, that's my recommendation. It just seems like it's a lot of money, and hopefully there's other options. Thank you.
Thank you, Enrique. Any further thoughts on that? I would echo what Enrique just said. That does come across as an alarming amount of money. I know things aren't cheap these days, but I'm wondering if there's any way we could find a less expensive alternative than that, even if it's lower quality. Anything else on that? In not hearing any, go ahead.
No, that's it. I'm done on my end.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Great, appreciate that. And then, so that would take us to preparation for the next LMH plan.
Yes, so we have our Lead Me Home plan coming up. We are approaching the 5th year of our current plan. So we are combining forces and trying to roll this out, and we would like to invite partners to collaborate both strategically planning for this as well as financially. Last plan was we were quoted about $220,000 by Focus Strategies. We had some city and county support, and would love to continue that support throughout all of our cities and jurisdictions and counties to develop this plan, so it is truly a community process. So we will be reaching out to you all when we have our scope of work in place and our proposals ready to launch, so that you guys can be a part of the process and hopefully be able to contribute financially and strategically through that. Does anybody have any questions on the Lead Me Home plan?
Any questions or comments?
I do have a quick question for Katrina.
Go ahead.
For the state portion of HHAP prior rounds, there's a line item, I think it's called system support. And I believe system support, this would be an eligible activity under that. Is that correct?
Yes, so we do have some funding aside for system support. We also have some funding from our county contract, Monterey County contract, that will go towards this, but it's not the $200,000 to that. And I believe that if the community is adopting it, the community should help build it and help fund it.
Yeah. So, do you know what is the share for San Benito County? I will look at our HHAP budgets. We do have some funding, but I don't know how much. So,
yeah. Once we get a quote, we can split it just how we do all of our funding based on the point in time count distribution. I think this year it has changed to 80-20 instead of your guys' portion being 15%. So it went up.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Any public comment? Hearing none, thank you very much for that. That would take us to the last item, which is HMIS 2025 HIC/PIT. And this is information.
Thank you, Supervisor. So it is housing inventory count time and our sheltered point-in-time count. So we do not do the unsheltered every year like some of the larger communities do, but we do every year have to do a sheltered point-in-time count. So it is about that time and it is about that season. Oliver has been working with the service providers to go through their housing inventory count paperwork and making sure that numbers are correct and aligned. And this is just a count of beds in the community. So that includes rapid rehousing programs, permanent housing, permanent supportive housing, transitional housing. It even includes our emergency shelters and navigation centers and things like that. So this is a report that we have to do every year to HUD. We have a total of 99 programs that are pulling into our housing inventory count. Part of that is seeing how many programs we've got has also kind of triggered a little bit of investigation within the coalition to see how many of these programs are standalone separate programs, because with almost 100 programs in our community and our PIT count going up, we are a little worried because HUD will ask. When we submit these final numbers, they do a back and forth with us, and we have to kind of provide and prove that our programs are still all doing everything that they should be in moving people into housing. So with 99 programs, that was a very large number for us. And so we are looking into seeing how many of those programs can actually be combined. And we have just restructured our HMIS Oversight Committee to have a policy work group that will help review these types of things and make sure that if there is a need for blended funding and the funding stream allows, that we do that to the best of our ability and they can create a policy. And we as a community can create a policy on how we would blend those types of funding so that when it came time to report, folks would know what the best way to do that would be. But right now we have almost all of our programs in. We have 5 more that we are awaiting for. These were due back in February 3rd, I believe it was. So we are still waiting on a few more of those, and then Oliver begins his back and forth with everybody. So it is a very time-consuming process. So if you are seeing messages from Oliver, please make sure you are responding. You may also be receiving them from Denise and Danny. We have our whole data team on it because that is how big of a project that it is. There is Housing Inventory PIT workshop coming up February 27th at 12:30, and I believe it goes for an hour and a half. So if you are an agency that is receiving an email from Oliver probably sometime today, then please make sure you are there, because some of these data things can actually be much deeper than we expect, than just being like, I need to update the number of beds, but then it becomes a larger issue when and you have to dig into the housing move-in dates and things like that. So it's a pretty tough process. So please make sure you're on the lookout for those emails, and then we will provide a final report to the Leadership Council once it's all submitted and accepted by HEAD.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? Any public comment? And since that was an informational item, that brings us to the end of our agenda. Anything further, Katrina?
That's it. We did really great, everybody. We got through it.
Really appreciate everybody. Especially getting us to the quorum was important. So thank you, and thank you for staff for making those calls. So, all right. Well, thanks a lot, everyone. We'll see you at the next one.
Thank
you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.